Hobbs and Shaw was just one of those mindless, fun action films. So I want to dive into this movie deeper with my top 5 favorite scenes from this movie. So, spoilers ahead. If you're not yet ready for spoilers, I do have a spoiler-free review up right now that you can check out. What did you think of Hobbs and Shaw? Let's talk in the comments. Welcome to Durbania. I'm Durbin, and these are my top 5 favorite scenes from Fast and Furious Presents Hobbs and Shaw. You know, I gotta be perfectly honest with you. I like this way better than the Fast and the Furious movies. I really did. And I really think it's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Jason Statham. They just had a great chemistry on screen together. So I didn't really miss the rest of the Fast and the Furious cast because I was having a blast with these two actors. So enjoying what these two actors are giving me on the screen, enjoying the mindless action and the fun, that has left me with 5 scenes that are my favorite in this movie, and I'm ready to dive into those. What are some of your favorite scenes in Hobbs and Shaw? Let's talk about that in the comments. Number 5, the Ryan Reynolds and Kevin Hart cameos. Those were some of my favorite scenes in the movie, and I think what I loved about it is it was a surprise. Like, they didn't give away in any of the advertising that Ryan Reynolds or Kevin Hart were going to have any kind of appearance in the movie. So when they showed up, it was pretty hysterical. I mean, there's Hobbs and his daughter. They're in the diner having milkshakes, and all of a sudden, Ryan Reynolds is there? And since this movie just is what it is, it embraces what it is and has fun with it, they just embrace the fact that Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool, and that's what he's most famous for right now, because the way he delivered his lines, he delivered them like Deadpool. I felt like I was watching the Merc with the Mouth, and I was having a blast with it. And I feel like the way he acted that just fit the tone of the movie and the tone of the universe, and I think it adds something good to this entire overall Fast and Furious universe. So I enjoyed all of those scenes with Ryan Reynolds, including those hysterical post-credit scenes. And Kevin Hart, I'm telling you, the scene on the plane before Kevin Hart turned around in his seat as the air marshal, when you just had Hobbs and Shaw, and they were bickering and bantering back and forth at each other, I mean, I was already laughing pretty darn hard during all of that. Like, that was just hilarious all by itself. But then when Kevin Hart turns around as the air marshal, and he doesn't say, "I figured out who you are," to get them in trouble, or doesn't try to arrest them off the plane, but no, hands them his card and his resume because he misses being on the front lines and tries right there to convince them that he can add to their team. Like, you're just a duo and you're off balance. What you need is a third person. You need a trio. And he's just trying to, work himself into this. It was hysterical, man. I loved it. So I thought that was a great moment where those two actors had their cameos. Number 4, running down the side of the building. That scene was highly unrealistic, and it's what made it so fun. It's that scene in the beginning where the bad guys capture Shaw's sister. They jump out of that CIA headquarters area. They're running down the building because they got the ropes on their backs. And what does Hobbs do? He does what an action star should do and jumps out the window, grabs a hold of that rope, and kind of just goes down with them. Let's go, falls even further and even faster, beats up one of the dudes that he lands on, and swings over to the elevator that Shaw's taken to smash the dude's face in the elevator to be like, "Ha, Shaw!" It was pretty darn hilarious. But what I liked best about that scene of them running down the building was probably the end of it, where Hobbs gets into Shaw's car, and as they're driving, Hobbs does what? Punches out the window. They drive by that dude on the motorcycle, and Hobbs catches him and slams him into a brick wall. If it was real life, Hobbs would have broken his hand just breaking that window alone. But yeah, I'm sure he would have overall lost an arm. But that's the beauty of this. This movie is an escape from real life. So it was hysterically fun to have that awesome action sequence from somebody as big as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson grabbing a dude off a motorcycle from a car and slamming him into a freaking brick wall. It was awesome. Number 3, Idris Elba's intro. I really did like his introduction into this movie. And what was cool is we get to see him on a motorcycle. He's driving down the road, and I thought what we were seeing when we did his point of view, I thought it was the heads-up display of his helmet, where the helmet was giving him the readout. A helicopter's landed over here. You're traveling this fast, this far to the building. All the different info that the heads-up display was giving him. But it wasn't a heads-up display of the helmet. No, it was revealed like he's an augmented individual, Black Superman. And so this was what he was actually seeing because of how he's been augmented, because he's now more than human. And so when he shows up and he fights, it's just incredibly cool. I love watching Idris Elba do this type of action. He's really good at these kind of characters. And what was really cool was like how he mentally called his motorcycle to him. Like the first time that happened, I thought that was pretty slick. Also, this introduction to Idris Elba is where we get to see Shaw's sister for the first time, and we get to see her in action, like beating the ever-living tar out of these bad guys. And so I thought actually that was pretty darn fantastic. So that scene where we met Idris Elba had a ton of fantastic action, great introduction to characters, and I really enjoyed that. Number 2, Hobbs holding the helicopter. So Hobbs and Shaw, they go to Hobbs's home, and as this helicopter's attacking, what do? They throw this chain up to catch this helicopter, and at first it's semi-realistic as they're, using kind of a semi-truck to try to drag this helicopter along with them. But then at some point, things happen. Bad guys get the upper hand. Helicopter's pulling them over the cliff. Chain breaks. They can't lose the helicopter. So what does Hobbs do? He catches the chain, then he holds it, and he pulls back that helicopter. And then he wraps the chain back around the thing and winds it right back up. I love it because it's so stupid. Because isn't the whole point of this movie is that Idris Elba is the super one? So our heroes are at a disadvantage no matter how tough they are because Idris Elba is super. So that's kind of the point. Except Hobbs, as a normal, unaugmented human being, grabs a hold of a chain and catches a helicopter and holds it. I mean, even if it's like for 5 seconds, that's still like, what? But you know what? Again, what is this movie? An escape from reality. So who cares? I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was really cool, and I had a blast with that scene. Number 1, the Polynesian War Ceremony. As I think about this movie, this is the scene I just keep going back to. When I watch the trailer a couple times to refresh my mind, like as soon as this would pop up, I'm like, yes! This scene was so awesome in the movie. Before I saw the movie and I'm watching the trailer and they're doing that war ceremony and Idris Elba and his crew have showed up to fight Hobbs and his family, why are they just watching? I'm wondering to myself. Why aren't they shooting them? But then you find out the guns have chips in them so that only the bad guys could operate them, and Shaw's sister broke into the system and disabled all the chips so the guns didn't even work for the bad guys. So it did kind of make sense out of that. And it was kind of cool that Idris Elba and his crew were kind of captivated. I actually thought that scene, that ceremony, was cooler than the fight itself, which the fight itself was still pretty darn cool, but you get what I'm saying. I thought it was pretty darn slick. So what were your 5 favorite scenes from Hobbs and Shaw? Let's talk about that in the comments. And while you're there, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell by the subscribe button so you're notified for my next movie review, ranking video, theological analysis, trailer reaction, or anything else I do here. I'm Durbin. Thanks for checking out Durbania.